Hello, AP students. We are going to start period 5.4, and I'm going to do something different for beginning this unit. What I have here is a PowerPoint. It's actually from another AP World History teacher named J.P. Harmon. What I'm going to do is kind of lame, I guess, but I'm going to present his PowerPoint just to give you some information about 5.4 and our global migrations that we're talking about. So take notes as we go, and let's begin. All right, so we're looking at global migrations. And let's first look at causes of global migrations. So whenever we talk about migration, people moving, you might think more of immigration. Immigration is when people come into a country. Migration is just people moving or leaving. People usually don't want to leave their home country. They would rather stay where they live. So there's push factors that will push them out. One of the biggest things is population pressures. That means that there is, a growing population, and as we see in this era, the population is increasing. Here we have a graph that is on Friedmanpedia section 5.4 as well. It's also in your packet to take notes on. And if we look at this and we look at the population, we can see population was pretty steady for a lot of history. We have the, years in here. We have the year 1000, we get to 1100, 200, 300, 1400, the year 1500. Population starts growing up, but then when we look in this era around 1750 to 1900, we see population goes way up during the modern era. And this trend will even accelerate more during the contemporary era. So what we see is there's a huge population growth. And if you look down here, we can see again another way of looking at it from the year 1000 to the year 2000. We have, again, huge population growth, especially starting off around this time period, near 1750 when our era is beginning. We see it spike and grow. And we also see here in this line, we're looking at the city population. So the population in cities at this time grows big time. We see city population, the share. In this era, we see cities grow from having 3% of the population to getting near about 9% of the population. So cities grow and populations increase dramatically. So why do populations increase so much from 1750 to 1900 in our modern era? There's new agricultural technology, the agricultural revolution, which produces more food. We talked about that during the Industrial Revolution. There's new medicines which allow people to live longer, the healthier people. Healthier people plus more food means that there's larger populations. Not as many people are dying, more babies are being born. And people with the ability to move often left high populated areas to go to parts of the world that weren't so highly populated. We're going to see this in Europe quite a bit. We're going to see this in South Asia and East Asia with both the Indian population and the Chinese population who are leaving there and spreading out all over the world, as we'll get into what is called, even though it's a bad term, the term coolie, which is used for a lot of Asians who move around the world as indentured labor, which is pretty close to slavery, if not slavery. Let's continue looking at our push factors. There's faster, cheaper transportation. There's the steamship. Again, Industrial Revolution, we talked about the steam engine, the Newcomen engine. Eventually that technology gets put on boats, and we have steamboats pretty much. Real simple explanation. Steamboats are able to go across the oceans. They're affordable for everyone, but for the very poor. And if you are poor, you can get this steamship travel to other places if you're willing to put yourself out as an indentured servant. That means you're willing to work like 3, 5, 7 years of hard conditions to pay for your travel, and then you can have a possibility of getting land in the new area where you're going to, whether it's someone from India going to South America to Guyana, someone from China going to the United States, again someone from India going to South Africa, or even someone from Ireland going to the United States, someone from Italy going to Argentina. We will see many people moving all over the world. And lastly, political unrest and religious persecution also leads to a lot of people leaving their lands. There's many revolutions in this era, as we just talked about. We just went over the era of revolution with, the American Revolution, French Revolution, Haitian Revolution, Latin American revolutions. There's anti-Jewish programs in Russia, which means a lot of Jewish people want to leave Russia during this time period as well. Other push factors are famine. There's the Irish potato famine, where basically in the Columbian Exchange, potatoes are brought from the Andes into Ireland, and this is a good thing kind of in a way because it gives a food supply for people in Ireland. Unfortunately, Britain colonized Ireland, and they limited the food that the Irish people could eat, and many of them were just eating potatoes and milk for a long time. But then what happened was the potatoes started dying. There was a potato famine, or called the potato blight, which took out a lot of the potatoes, and many people from Ireland were forced to leave. There's similar situations in East and Southeast Asia with people from India and China especially. Again, as we'll talk about the coolie indentured labor, as they will move many other places around the world. And lack of employment. Workers are forced to seek employment elsewhere. People want jobs, so they're willing to move. Many of these people, especially the Asian people from India and China, who move as labor, they think they're going to come back to their homelands, but they really don't have a possibility to. Many of them die in their indentures, or just have no ability to go back to their homeland, and they start a new life. For this region, a place like Fiji, which is in Southeast Asian island, 40% of its population today is Indian descent. And Guyana, which is in South America, has a very large Indian population as well. Guyana is one of those three countries near the top of South America. There's Guyana, French Guyana. You can look those up on a map. Oh, look, it's a map. There we have our Guyanas. There's Guyana right there, French Guyana, Suriname. These areas actually have large Indian populations, for example. If we go down here, we look a little further at Argentina. This will get a very large Italian population of people move to Argentina. Let's other labor, places like Peru, where my wife is from, there will be Chinese indentured labor will be brought here. Go up here to United States. Come on, United States. There you go. And over here, we will see a lot of migration from China coming here as well. Here you see South Africa down here. There'll be a lot of population from India coming to South Africa. And let's go find Fiji real quick. Fiji is located right here, which also gets a large population of people from India who move there as well. So as we can see, there are a lot of push factors that push people to leave their homeland. Along with push factors, there are pull factors, which cause people to pull them into another land. One is urbanization. Migrants move into areas of cities with people of a similar background. Here's where we'll see some ethnic enclaves. We will see an example. This would be Chinatowns. Chinatowns like in New York, San Francisco. Also, we'll see people moving into similar areas, like many people of India live in similar areas in South Africa, for example. More government services are offered to migrants in cities. You can get more access to work as well in many places. Many people in Chinatown, for example, really start businesses, become a way to get by and have a family running a business. Farmland. The U.S., Canada, Russia, and many Latin American nations encourage immigration with land. Basically, they have open land and they want people to come in there. The United States, for example, offers 160 acres in the Great Plains to people who decide to live there for 5 years. This would be like when my ancestors from Germany and Sweden decided to come to the United States. The United States was willing to see it with the manifest destiny to be populated, and they were willing to bring in immigrants, especially from Europe, to come in to those areas. Other pull factors, the abolition of slavery. Slavery is completely abolished in the Western world by the 1880s, and this is mostly we're thinking about like African slavery. First, England definitely as an anti-slave society, which spreads to America. We see Brazil in the 1880s eventually gets rid of slavery as well. But there's still a need for cheap labor. So indentured servitude replaces this labor. It's kind of like temporary slavery, but it's still pretty close to slavery. Huge populations, people from China and India. And again, this would be called the coolie labor system. And it's very close to slavery. Many of these Indian and Chinese migrants who come to work in many cases are living in former quarters of African slaves, for example. Economic opportunity pulls people. Many nations offer more economic possibilities. You might think, well, why would someone take one of these indentures to come if they're going to be treated like a slave pretty much? Many of them didn't realize how hard the labor was going to be and how bad it was going to be before they came on their indenture. They saw it as an opportunity for work. Many of them didn't really know where they were going, and they didn't know how they thought they'd be able to come back. There's other economic opportunities. There's the gold rushes in Australia, Alaska, and Canada, which bring in many more settlers to those regions. Other pull factors: religious and political freedom. Many migrants seeking hope, safety, religious freedom, whether it's the hope for a job, whether it's the ability to believe in the religion of your choice. That's why many people decide to come to America as well. And just to have a fresh start in their life. Let's look at some of the effects of migration. Migration will make a big change in demographics. Whenever we talk about demographics, we're really talking about the population and the people, where they live. The European promotion of large single crop farms for export. This will bring in a lot of people moving around the world. When we talked about the labor forces from African slavery, many of them were the African slaves were working in fields like sugar and tobacco. As this era moves on, many of them will be replaced by Indian labor, especially again in places like Guyana, places like South Africa, Fiji, etc. This causes a large number of males to migrate looking for work. This is especially true with a lot of the Chinese indentured servants. Many, many, many more males come than females, and this changes the demographics in the countries. Back in the home areas for like China, because many men migrate, women have to step into positions in the home areas where there used to be men. Also, it changes the dynamics a little bit. It's more men working and women being in the home. And always with migration, there's resentment against the migrants or the people who come in. Many of the recipient countries resented the new migrants. There's personal displays of prejudice that happen. Two of the big ones we'll be talking about is the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, which happened in the United States, where they wanted to bar Chinese from coming in. Another one that we'll see a video on will be the White Australian Act of 1901, where Australia wants to build this utopian society that's going to be progressive. It's going to be a great place, a workers' utopia for white people. Literally, they make a policy that they want to stop non-white people from coming into Australia, and even make a dictation test to prevent people from coming in. It's disgusting. You'll see the video. All right, some sample population shifts that happened from the 19th century, remember 1800s, to the early 20th century, 1900s. South to Southeast Asia. This will be a lot of what would be seen as the coolie labor, again, from people from India, moving to Southeast Asia, especially island places like Fiji, as farm laborers. West Russia to East Asia, 50 million people from Japan, Siberia, Manchuria, Central Asia. Many people from West Russia moving more for work. China, 2.5 million. Most go to the United States and Western South America. And again, this labor in America, for example, many Chinese build a huge railroad that goes into the United States, Transcontinental Railroad. But also farm labor, especially in places like Western South America, where Chinese laborers are brought in. 2.5 million. It's a huge number. To these days, there's still a population in China and Peru, for example, where my wife is from. Lots of Chinese restaurants there too as well. And there's a Chinatown in Lima, Peru as well. All right. Europe to Americas. Nearly 60 million Europeans come to the Americas. Many of them come in this era. Some move to the cities. Some move further in the states. Like, again, my family came in this time to the Midwest. And 60 million people from Europe come to the Americas. Half come to the United States. Many people from Italy, for example, go to Argentina. And about 60% of the population of Argentina right now is Italian ancestry. That's a pretty big deal. Okay, there'll be more videos and clips that you're going to watch, so pay attention to them and take good notes. And yeah, good luck on your packets. And we will have a CCOT essay on this as well.